Thank you, Brandon. Now, I'm going to go on down to Memphis with Ronin, and Jason and Jabo are going to talk with me and demonstrate how to exercise low light shooting tactics with a rifle. Most encounters are going to happen in low light, so we need to learn how. Let's go find out.
Jason and Jabo back with Ronin Combat Strategies. Today, let's talk a little bit about low light shooting techniques. We'll also cover building clearing at night. Why do we need to know these, Jabo?
Well, I think we need to make our training more realistic. You know, guys train for theory all the time, and we got to joke about theory and reality. The reality is you're probably not going to be out in a range during the daylight hours when an encounter happens. The majority of the time, it's going to be during low light conditions. So we need to train for that.
Exactly. And a couple of things to think about. One, target acquisition. I need to be able to light that target up and see my target. Two, threat ID. I need to be able to ID whether that's a friendly or a foe and what he's got in his hands, whether it's a knife, a gun, or even a cell phone.
Yeah, that's a great point because, again, consider the environment that you're going to be working in, your home, full of your loved ones. You need to consider the techniques and tactics you're going to use to clear that structure because we want to use the fundamental rules of safety and not point weapons at things we don't want to destroy, kill, or buy, including our loved ones and family.
Yeah, and lastly, distract. You know, lights are a good thing. Surefire came out with some good, nice, bright products,
awesome.
Especially LED. These things are bright enough that I can point that into the suspect or the threat's eyes. Gives me a little bit of time, breaks up the OODA loop a little bit. I've distracted him, and now I can move on to other techniques.
Yeah, I like how you said OODA loop, using that to distract his brain process and keeping him guessing in the game, or the combat as we like to call it. The thing about Surefire that I like is, remember when we first started how the lights were this big?
Oh yeah,
and now they come in
lights.
these nice little tight packages like this? Ridiculous. The funny thing is, guys will spend a ton of money on this weapon and then they'll get some crappy light for it. This is just as much of a weapon, or is as important in the encounter as the weapon itself.
It is, and let's talk a little bit about weapon-mounted lights versus handheld lights. You know, the rage today is weapon-mounted lights, and there's good reason for that. They're lightweight, they're bright, they're easy to operate,
convenient.
The ergonomics are there, so I can mount that weapon, I can control the weapon and drive it the way I need to, and if I need the light, I can get it up there as opposed to the handhelds. Now, the downside of that is a lot of guys have a tendency to use that weapon light and point it at everything instead of an admin light.
We call it muzzle-based clearing.
Exactly.
We talked about that earlier. I'm covering things with that muzzle that I don't intend to put bullets into. So you're going to need a handheld light for when you're operating in an area where there's things that you don't want to be covering with your muzzle.
Yeah, and what Jay was talking about is even with an Executive Defender by Surefire, a lightweight, bright, handheld light, guys, if I'm out with my weapon and I'm checking my threats and it comes time to check my 6 or 360 degrees, I can pull that handheld light out, I can scan, check behind me, so I'm not muzzling either my partners, my friends, or whatever else, and I can still ID the bad guys.
Now I think we ought to touch on the cons to that, just so we're covering both ends of the spectrum. The only bad thing to that is now when I've got an administrative task to do, like opening a doorknob or something like that, moving a child out of the way, my hand is tied up, so we want to consider that as well.
Right, exactly. Home defense is a good example. I'm at the house, I'm trying to clear, I got to look in a closet or a bedroom, I need to open the door. If it's small, I may be able to open it with that light in my hand, but a weapon light would be key there. I could grab the handle, I could pull the weapon out with the light on it, and I've got light.
So it just goes back to train with what you're going to fight with.
Exactly. What we see here is multiple shooters on the line at night during low light tactics. Guys, what you notice is a lot of weapon mounted lights, and we talked about those pros. We got good visual cues downrange, we can find those sights. You'll also notice that some of those flash suppressors are putting out some pretty good flash.
Absolutely, but you're also seeing the use of a handheld light as well, because we just want to re-emphasize that a weapon mounted light is awesome for convenience, but there's going to be situations where you don't want to point that muzzle and that light mounted in conjunction with the muzzle at your loved ones and other things.
Right, exactly, and you see these shooters inside clearing rooms and having to move up to hallways or closets, and that handheld really provides a big benefit.
Absolutely. Good class.
Awesome class.
Anything else? Ronin out.
Ronin out.
Hey guys, Brandon with No Attack Firearms Training. I want to introduce you to the Nighthawk pop-up target by Smart Targets LLC. The Nighthawk is a portable pop-up target base with sensors that can pick up everything from airsoft to high-powered rifles, yet it withstands winds of up to 50 miles per hour without triggering a false hit. Shown here with the optional long-range remote unit, which is good for up to 500 yards of control. It uses a common 18-volt cordless tool battery for easy replacement and plenty of power on hand. The base unit is made of sturdy 12-gauge steel, and the drive unit is housed in durable 12-gauge powder-coated steel plating. A solid piece of 12-gauge steel also protects the battery from low-fired shots. Target panels are made of military-grade, semi-sealable plastic and can withstand over 1,000 rounds before having to be replaced. Once the targets have been shot up, just replace with another panel. In single target mode, the target will fall upon impact and automatically return to the vertical position. In dual target mode, both targets and both sensors are connected, and as the first target is hit and falls, the second automatically pops up. When the second target is hit and falls, the first returns to its original position. Lots of versatility and great shooter feedback. For more information, check them out at their website, smarttargetsllc.com.
Trigger Time is brought to you by Crossbreed Holsters, Drago Gear, DS Arms, First Spear, Keltec, PNW Arms, Thunder Beast, Saber Red, Delta Outdoorsman, Sport Optics, Fox Knives USA, 511 Tactical, and WW Guns.
Great show today, guys. We're glad you were with us. We wrapped it up. We had a good show. We'll have more great ones to come. As always, we're going to dedicate the show, and today we dedicate this episode to the U.S. Marshals Service. Go get them, boys.